Hey all, G-Spree here, and welcome back to 12 Days of Roguemas. Today we're running through Dead Cells. Dead Cells is the first game that got me hooked on this whole idea, this whole genre of roguelike games. You go through a run, you get some stuff along the way, you do different things to get there, and then once you die, you're dead, and there's really no official end to the game, unless it's like story-wise. But once you die, you have upgrades that you can permanently upgrade your save file or yourself, and you can unlock new weapons, new armor, and new special abilities, new runes in this game, which is a really cool thing for gameplay. And then the biggest importance, cosmetics. And I think it's kind of a shame that I haven't shared this video or really been able to share this video on YouTube until now. So I've played this game for years. I got this before Slay the Spire, actually, I think. But the fact that connecting your Switch to your computer for video card capturing is so hard. I hate Elgato. I hate it so much. But now I have this cool little thing. Look at that. It's a little dongle. This is the HDMI that goes from the Switch into my computer. It's to a USB, and it takes audio and visual. And I got that thing for a whole $12. Well, actually, Logan, BioRack gave it to me. But if you just if you need a way to connect your Switch or your Xbox or your PlayStation or whatever to your computer for OBS or whatever, this works. This is amazing. I highly recommend it. It's $12, and it's like you get what you pay for. So there's like anti-aliasing stuff that goes on, but really, you don't even notice it half the time. Anyways, Dead Cell has a bunch of lore. I won't spoil it, so don't worry. Well, I might spoil it a little bit just toward the end, I swear, but I'm not going to explain it. In fact, I don't really know what the lore is, apart from you're just a guy that goes through stuff and dies, and then he has to do it again, which is, generally gathered with the aspect of roguelite genres, but also spewing lore at you for 15 minutes really isn't my style anyway, so let's just get right into this game! First in the run, you get to pick up your base weapon, your melee weapon typically, and then you get to pick up your ranged weapon, and then there's this third, weird cousin option that's just kind of here. It's a shield. I can't use shield. My timing is literally so bad. I have an old man brain with intense brain lag that, I'd fail the ruler test 10 times out of 10 sober. And then you're just released into the wild, the dungeon, the generated procedural floors and platforms and whatever with just a bunch of enemies on it. And you just get to go wild until you find a little doorway. And then maybe, if you're unlucky, it says toxic sewers. We don't want to go there. We'll just go to the next place. And in fact, we'll come back to this. We'll come back to the doors. So first I want to mention this thing called scrolls. So scrolls come in 3 different colors, and they're kind of categorized into survival, tactical, and then brutality, which all you need to know is red, purple, and green. Green typically gives the most amount of HP, but there's not a lot of weapons that actually utilize that green color. A lot of the weapons are purple for my fancy, and then red for typically the melee, just big ol' smashy weapons. I'm going to be using this arm a lot because I'm holding my mic with this arm, and I don't have anything to do with this arm, so he's just going to do things. And it's going to get cut off by this green screen because I'm not far enough over to where I should be, but that's besides the point. But what do these scrolls do? So obviously these scrolls give you some HP. They also increase the damage and effectiveness of the weapons that you have, and if they have any modifications, it will help those out too. And you also get up to 3 mutations during the run. You get to select 1 mutation after the stage, and then another one after stage 2, and another one after stage 3, and then after that you're locked. You can only have 3. You can reforge or reset them, so you get to choose them again, which I never do. It's money. I usually don't even spend the money in this game that you collect. I kind of just use the cards I'm dealt with, or the weapons I'm dealt with, and as you go along, you get a different weapon, you pick it up, and you're just like, oh, this does more damage than what I've got, so of course I'm going to use it. But anyway, the scrolls will increase the effectiveness of those things. I kind of going off on a tangent. I have a whole script here. I'm doing my best, I swear, but I'm just... So there's also utility, which is your ZR, ZL buttons, which are the trigger buttons. I'm playing on the Switch here, as I mentioned earlier, but these are from a wide variety of turrets, a dash that goes behind somebody, and then a bomb that explodes, which comes in a multitude of different varieties and flavors of bombs, if you will. So those can be found after killing enemies if you're lucky. They can also be found in these cool chests. Now, chests are just kind of there, you open it. Sometimes there's a little spooky surprise, which I didn't record the little spooky surprise for you, so you're gonna have to find out when you play this game. And then you can also find a choice of items just along the area, and you can actually get it in the between level area. I don't really know what it's called. But when you finish a level, there's like a little section where you get to do your upgrades and stuff and whatever before you go on to the next chapter or level or stage or whatever you want to call it. But you get to typically choose between a ranged or melee or utility or maybe another utility or an amulet. Now, amulets are just kind of passive. They give you buffs and they give you basically some extra reforged slots. Typically, it's the ground slam and then the dodge type of deal, which modifications we can go into in depth. So in order for me to make the best use of my time, we're just going to kind of skim past it, but it is a really cool thing that we'll touch a little bit in the future here. But I personally think that the ramping of this game is super good. It really sucks if you get screwed and you don't get a melee weapon and you're just scraping through the first like 4 stages without an upgraded melee weapon, and it's just like, well, you know, I either find something and I don't, or I don't and I die. So yeah, it's really, RNG in this game is absolutely amazing. I think it's super balanced. I think the enemies feel good. The ramping is good. It's not annoying to have to fight. The bosses are hard too. We'll get to that in a second. We're going to get to a lot of things in a minute here. So I'll cover one more aspect of things that you get along the run or along the level. They're called cells, which is like basically if you play Dark Souls, right, or you know about Dark Souls, you kill things and you get their soul. Now, you don't get 1 soul per every enemy killed like you may in other games. They drop blue balls, basically. Some of them drop blue balls, and if you're in the lucky, they're actually golden. But these blue balls, you collect them, they're called cells. You'll be able to use them for your upgrades that I've talked about between the stages, or you can save them and use them to upgrade the rarity of your modifiers for weapons and stuff that you pick up, which is you can only put cells into those after you've beaten a boss. And then it's like 1,000 cells or something. It's like 500 cells, I think, for getting the 1+ modifier, and then it's 1,000 cells to get the +2+2, or the +2 modifier. So there's a +1 and then there's a +2 modifier. So the 1+ means you get 1 modifier, or maybe it's the rarity. I actually don't know. I'm not going to look this up. So it's basically just you get better stuff. But you spend these cells on uniforms, like equipment, unlocks. So you have to get scrolls to get the equipment unlocked. So then you can unlock the equipment and actually use the equipment. And it's the same for mutations, where you get more mutations, and then you get more utilities, and then you can dress up as Freddy Fazbear, I think. But no, there is actually a lot of cool crossovers between this game and other roguelikes, and for some reason Shovel Knight is also there. But I'm playing this whole game through on the Ironclad. I think it's an absolute awesome kind of connection between my favorite roguelike games. You can also play as the Commando if you spend a ton of money on the Ruby Key, which, shout out Jack, who grinded the shit out of everything and got so much money to buy that Ruby Key and got all the other keys and was able to unlock the Ironclad for me, so thank you, sir. Alright, so I think I've talked about everything inside of the level, so let's get to the end of the level. You get these doors, and after stage 1 you can go to the Toxic Sewer, which we're not going to. The Toxic Sewer sucks, unless you like little rats nibbling at your toes and the feeling of poison and acid just melting away at the socks and your bones and your toes and honestly, it can go up to like your chest if it's deep. But we're just going to skip that door and we're going to go to something that's a lot more promising. It's a lot more, appealing to maybe your ears. It's Promenade of the Condemned. So, you've reached the end of the stage, and you see these cool little doors. One's got a timer above it. It says 2 minutes. The other one says 30. And you don't know what these mean. Well, you can probably guess. The 2 minutes is if you clear the stage in under 2 minutes, and this time ramps up with the levels that come afterwards, but you get to go in there and you get 20 free cells for your endeavors. Then you also get your choice of a couple of items. Well, you get 1 item, but you get a choice of, whatever. And then the same reward is behind the door that says 30, but in order to unlock the door that says 30, you have to kill 30 enemies without taking damage. This will eventually get up to 60, and it'll cap just at 60, so you don't have to worry too much about ramping out of just insaneness. Whatever. I don't get through these 60 hit doors very often. And when I do, it is insane. It's like, oh my god, like, we're going places here. So if you miss the 2 minutes at the beginning, or if you miss the 5 minutes after the second stage, Good luck, buddy, on trying to open any of those doors ever. But then you get to go to the big green or blue guy and give him your cells, and this is where you get all of your upgrades and stuff, which I've already shown you. So let's go on past this guy. So now you get to talk to one of the backpack greebles, and he's by a grindstone, so he can modify your stuff. So those modifiers we talked about, you can add those modifiers, change your modifiers of your weapons, because the weapons and stuff can come with modifiers. And then you get to talk to the other backpack greeble, who's sitting in a backpack once you get all of your mutations. But this is where you get your mutations. This list will fill out as you get more stuff, but I typically go with the same thing, which is support, and then a mixture of like 4 other things. So there's a couple of different ones that I get, but I almost always get support because turrets are just insane. Like, I'm gonna play this clip behind me. Look at this. This is insane. I am beating the first boss of this game, the concierge on the Black Bridge, and I'm using a Tesla coil, and that's doing the bulk of my damage. Sure, I'm whipping kunais and I'm like poisoning him or bleeding him or whatever, but the Tesla coil is doing a majority of the work here. And so the support mutation, I should say, it just gives you extra damage if you're by a turret or whatever, like one of your deployables. And then you get to go fill up your healing flask and heal yourself, and then you're on to the next stage. Now the healing flask, you upgrade it, but it starts at 1, and you get to use it 1 time. It heals like 60% to 80% of your health, I think. I'm not sure if the exact number or percentage, but my flask is currently, I think, the max flask. So I have five whole uses of it during one stage. So then, you know, you fill it up and then you're on your way. Now, one of the things I think is really cool about this game is you don't really get to decide what kind of build you have. You just kind of get dealt the cards or the weapons that you're just going to be using. And the biggest thing that you have towards a quote-unquote build is your mutations, which you can only get 3 of. So if I get this support thing for my deployable things, and I get some equipment or utility that's just better than the Tesla coil that I have, perchance, like just 2 bombs. Like, I just have 2 bombs now. If I choose to go that route where I lose the Tesla coil, that mutation is basically worthless. It's not basically, it is worthless. But if I also decide to do barbed wire, which is a mutation that I have unlocked, which it does damage if there's arrows stuck in an enemy. So you could start off with an arrow or a bow and arrow as your main, like, secondary weapon, I should say. But if you get something better than that, like a whip or like the kunai or a flask that just hucks fire at enemies, that's going to be worthless too. So it really just like, you leave it up to chance whenever you start a new run, and I think that is so important for video games like this. Okay, so let's talk about the bosses quick. Bosses go crazy in this game. There's mini bosses, there's elites, there's just, I guess, the regular bosses of the game. There's 2 bosses, I think. I'm not sure. There's the concierge on the Black Bridge, which I showed you and I talked about earlier, but then there's this other guy, the king, or the king, like, defender or something. I've only fought him a couple times, but it takes me like 40 minutes to get there. And I don't know how you really, like, just how you're supposed to beat this guy. I have, in this run, I've got some amazing weapons. I've got legendary stuff, and I think I have this Tesla coil in this run. You could check the tapes and correct me if I'm wrong. This boss is so hard, and then he just like summons a bunch of stuff that comes down and does damage and blows up, and then he pushes you into some spikes, and then he summons 2 elites and 2 regular units that you have to fight just randomly throughout the combat. It's like, dude, you're already fighting for someone else. You don't need more people fighting for you. But literally, I wrote this script that I'm more or less following as a guideline, but I wrote this script, and then I realized that I had screwed up the entire audio of the previous recording that I was going to use for this video. So I had to do some runs again, and I actually beat this guy. I beat this guy. I don't know how. It was just like a stroke of luck. It was super lucky. I was barely able to get some of these heal flasks out. I am appalled at the fact that I beat this guy. So here's a little bit of spoilers, but this game's been out for so long, and really the spoilers aren't really spoilers, because there's not a whole lot of text or lore to this game. You kind of just, you go along, and you can collect or ignore as much lore as you want to. But yeah, here's like behind, what's going on behind me is like lore stuff. Like, I've beaten the game, I guess. Their credits rolled. I got the credits to roll. I was like, I'm here shaking, my hands are shaking, because I'm like, holy shit, I actually beat this guy. This is so hard. But that's it about my boss rant. It's not really a rant, it was quick, which I usually actually don't follow when I say I'm going to talk about something quick. But there's also a bunch of really cool DLCs for this game, which I didn't show off in this video at all. I would love to stream this game more. I would love to make a video on this more, or just like, you know, we play it, right? I would absolutely love to play this game on the channel more. So if you guys are interested, please let me know. But there's also a bunch of cool references I mentioned earlier. There's whole Slay the Spire parts. There's whole like Risk of Rain parts. You can find the Risk of Rain 1 teleporter on the place, and there's like a crushed stone titan just there, and you can talk to the Slay the Spire exordium whale, and he's just like, where are your cards? And then you get a card. There's a card from Slay the Spire that you get as a utility. It's so cool. I love this game. But anyway, I think that should be it for me. I've been talking for absolutely way too long for my own good, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you more on some Roguemas videos. Good stuff coming up. See you tomorrow.